Lord Heseltine, you mentioned earlier about the enterprise zones which were established in the 1980s. In the budget, George Osborne announced some new enterprise zones around the country. I just wondered, in terms of your experience from the enterprise zones of the 1980s, whether or not you think there are concerns about the effect of enterprise zones, where they can often, and some of the evidence suggests that they often act as a displacement for activity in other parts of a local economy. So, for example, I represent a constituency in the Black Country in West Midlands, with 4 boroughs with varying degrees of economic deprivation. And there's some concern about an enterprise zone, if it was in a single location, may have the effect of displacing activity out of other locations. Do you think that that's one of the dangers with enterprise zones?
Well, it's one of the well-rehearsed criticisms, but it may be perfectly legitimate to concentrate jobs where there are high levels of unemployment, if that's the policy you're trying to cope with. There's no doubt that enterprise zones do have the effect of attracting investment. But some of it will be displacement. But there are a lot of case histories on this subject. It was Geoffrey Howe's idea. We did it. I mean, it was my legislation, but it was Geoffrey's idea to do the enterprise zone. I was personally, I was more completely committed to the Urban Development Corporation. I thought clearing the big land, getting the planning right, was the big. So,
do you think there might be an issue, therefore, with the scale of the enterprise zones which are being proposed? Because I think that the enterprise zones in the budget, they are conceived of as being relatively small units, and do you think, therefore, they are being pitched at the right kind of scale in order to have the desired effect of generating, essentially driving private sector employment and regeneration?
I think that you can argue it either way. Certainly what I do believe is that if you're going to go for serious large-scale regeneration, you need to have big areas of land assembly. Mm. That I'm quite sure about. And that's a different concept to an enterprise zone. You may use an enterprise zone within that, but to really change the nature of a society or community, you may well have to think in quite significant terms about land assembly.
Well, that's an interesting context of the Black Country, because one of the things I've been arguing for in the Black Country is to have linked enterprise zones, not just solely in one place, but linked together, concentrating on areas where there are significant scale in terms of land reclamation or in employment possibility, rather than thinking of it as being just one discrete unit. Do you think that would be a better way of approaching economic development in an area like the Black Country, where you have very distinct economic geography?
Well, I wouldn't answer the question without being able to look at the issue on the ground. And you may be right, but I can't know whether you're right.